to my channel. I hope you're all okay. Happy, healthy, safe for everyone in the world. I feel like I'm shouting because there's like 3 massive mics. Are they mics? Stereos. Speakers in the gym. So hopefully you can hear me because I've got the mic on for you. Today's video is how to hip thrust, and I've wanted to do this video for you because I feel like it's very important. For one, the hip thrust I truly think is the best exercise in terms of progressively overloading for the glutes. I started on 70 kilograms when I first started. I'm now on 210 kilograms for 2 reps, and I feel like it is an exercise that does specifically focus on the glutes and the posterior chain. I'm going to show you poor technique and bad technique and things to avoid that I see quite commonly, specifically with the barbell hip thrust. So we are going to go through everything in terms of like bench height, comfort, barbell pads and things like that, and then obviously I'm going to give you correct technique. So the first thing to think about is the height of the boxes. So in a lot of gyms since COVID, they took out the actual like boxes of like 13-inch and 2-inch that I used to put together, because the optimal height is like 15 to 16 inches depending on how tall you are. So I found that these 2 steppers together, this one on, actually they're the same, aren't they? Both pretty low. It's actually great for hip thrusts. In terms of comfort, really not comfy, and I got really bad bruising when I didn't put a mat there. So all you want to do is feed a mat through the back and then kind of just like, I mean, you can sit on that bit, that's not really an issue. It's like stops you from bruising, and as you can see in terms of the positioning, you're just on my upper back, so you're not resting like on my neck, you're not resting on the lower back, it's kind of where your scaps are. So if I was to hip thrust, that's the kind of position you'd want to be in. What I see quite commonly is people putting their head back when the bench is too high, and they get this movement. I think because you think you're going higher, that it's hitting your glutes, but you get an instant arch in your lumbar spine, and you can imagine if you've got a weight on, how much pressure it's putting on your lower back, and it is something you want to avoid. I will go through that with you. So the trusty barbell pad, the mycoachschool.com, which is our coaching school. Obviously join if you're not already, but we are currently out of stock. They sold out within like what, a day? They went really quick. We have another very exciting release coming soon, but obviously get yourself a barbell pad. This'll essentially, you can't really lift heavy if you don't have one, because you're not protecting your hips and it hurts. I mean, it will hurt and it will get really, really painful in terms of bruising on your hips if you don't have one. So I really would advise you to get one. So what you want to do, pop on your barbell pad, and if you have one of the My Coach School ones, you'll know that you have a bit in the center that actually dips down, so it sits on your hips more comfortably. So if I just show you a bit of a wrong technique, so its feet are quite wide out, not really that comfortable, going on the neck. I mean, it feels so abnormal, but you do see this quite commonly because people think the proper way to do a hip thrust can feel quite strange. Now, the first thing we want to look at with the hip thrust is the actual positioning of the barbell. So when you have the bar on you, you want it to sit in that hip crease. If you have it too low and your thighs are rolled down, if you have it literally on your hip bone, it'll be quite uncomfortable on your stomach. So just kind of find that happy medium where it is. Second thing we want to focus on is foot position. Now, foot position is so important. If they're too far away from your body, you're going to feel it in your hamstrings. So if I just give you an example, if I try and hip thrust like that, I can really feel it in my hamstrings. A lot of that force goes to my hamstrings. But if you do the opposite and they're too close to your body, you're going to get a lot of quad. So as you can see, that movement is really restrictive and uncomfortable, and that's where you've got to find that happy ground and play around with it a bit, where when you're at full hip extension, your shins are perpendicular, so when you are in that movement, you create like a 90-degree angle, which I will show you. So if I hip thrust up, full hip extension, you'll see that there's a 90-degree angle of where I've created like my knee bend when I am actually in full hip extension. And this will allow you to feel the hip thrust more in your glutes, over your hamstrings and your quads. You will find that if you are lifting heavy, so if I get to up past like 180, I can't really feel it in my glutes because the weight is so heavy. There's a lot of tension. It kind of takes over, but that's pretty normal not to be able to feel it. But if you drop the weight and you're doing like 20 reps with that foot position, you will solely feel it in your glutes. Also, by adopting a wider stance, the direction of the muscle pull runs parallel to the fibers in the muscle of the glutes, which leads to a higher level of glute activation. So I find that when I am hip thrusting naturally, I don't adopt a stupidly wide stance, and I do see some people doing this, and if you can feel it like that, that is fine. Mine's a little bit narrow, but it's still wider than shoulder width apart, if that makes sense. So I also flare my feet out to the sides a little bit. I think I just do that naturally. It's not really for any purpose. You might feel it more in your glutes externally rotating. So the next biggest thing and the most important thing is your head position and your neck position and your spinal position. So when we look at the barbell hip thrust, and this is a common mistake, I used to do it. I look back at my first YouTube videos and I think, holy hell, that video has like 2 million views, and I thought the hip thrusts in it aren't great. So when you're doing a hip thrust, what you want to focus on, you want to pretend there's a mirror in front of you and you literally stare at yourself the whole time. And you want to keep your chin tucked. Now, a lot of people tend to flare their head back when the weight gets too heavy. But obviously, like I said at the start, if that head flares back, you're going to get an arch in your lower back. If I keep my chin tucked and my gaze forward throughout the whole movement, if I were to give you a little demo, you can see that my torso is completely flat. My lumbar spine is flat, and there's actually a slight posterior tilt. There's not an anterior tilt, so I don't sit there. I'm completely getting full range of motion, and my head doesn't move. You can also imagine that there's someone behind you, like shoving your head forward, and this is why I think people kind of opt away from it sometimes when it gets heavy, because it can feel a bit strange, basically. But that is how you simply perform a basic hip thrust, and it's not too overcomplicated. It will massively improve your lifts. I'll just do like 10 reps for you just to kind of show you how I hip thrust, and this is the same whether it's 5 kilograms or 210 kilograms. Technique doesn't change. That is how to hip thrust, and I feel like I also don't want to overcomplicate the video like to a ridiculous extent, because I want you to feel comfortable doing this in the gym. I want you to feel like you can go and hip thrust and you can power the plates, and because like I said, I got out of breath then. It is one of the exercises where you truly can progress to the overload, whether you're working on strength like 3 to 5 reps, or you're doing hypertrophy 8 to 12, or you're doing really high volume, doing 20 reps. There's so much variation within the hip thrust. This is Glute Series episode number 6. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye guys.